Welcome to Empathy with Figs. I'm Figs, a relationship expert and couples therapist in San Francisco, and I spend my life trying to help people have a better relationship so they can feel more connected to each other, make up after having fights and snuggle each other, and just really celebrate your connection to each other. Today, I have a show where my wife, Teale,
Hi,
is going to join me, and we're going to talk about what to do if you're interested in going to couples counseling and your partner is a bit more reluctant or actually at a complete no, how to actually broach the subject of starting couples counseling.
that's great. This is actually I'm really excited about this one. I think it's actually very, very helpful for people because I think this is generally this is generally what happens.
Absolutely. The most normal thing in the world, like I get a phone call or an email and someone says, I really want to go to couples counseling, but my partner, I don't know. I haven't even asked them yet. I'm not sure if they would ever agree to this. And so it's a normal place where the conversation starts. And so today I just wanted to run through just a few points that could help you in that discussion or strategy to try and get your reluctant partner into couples counseling. So let's go through it, right? So the first one I have here on the list is only propose going one time, right? So here's what I mean by that, right? Don't try and sell your partner on the idea of going into a big process with a therapist that you're going to be going every week, or it's going to be several to a dozen sessions, right? You just want to get them in the door.
That will freak them out.
Which will freak them out?
If you're like, let's do it the 24 session package.
So the first thing is only try and get yes to one session. Do not try and sell any more than that, right? Now, by the way, I have a lot of sales training because that's what I used to do, as a stockbroker and head of business development for a startup before I became a therapist. So I actually, have a bit of experience in getting people to yes in other things than just therapy. So if I use that kind of lingo, like sales lingo, forgive me if it's annoying. I totally understand.
Like you got me into a relationship.
I did. We started with just, would you have dinner with me? Not like, would you actually get married to me? Right? These small little incremental steps, right?
He's very convincing.
Well, thank you. Well, so one, just ask for this one session. That's it. Now, number two, same, like sales 101, like training, right? Don't buy it back. Now, what do I mean by don't buy it back? Let's say you asked your partner, will you come to couples counseling to one session? And they say yes. It's time to shut up. Do not talk anymore, right? In sales, it's like don't try and sell or explain any more features of the benefits of couples counseling.
Right.
If you have someone at yes, end the conversation. You just want to end it at yes. Like you can now go and you can schedule it, and then you just will show up for the meeting. But don't keep talking about, I think couples counseling is really going to help us. I think it's good for you to start talking about your feelings. Like every single thing you say post getting a yes, you're at risk of buying it back. Now, by the way, I know this one really well. When I was 23 years old and a stockbroker here in San Francisco, I remember the first time I walked into some business owner's office, and they, I explained like the benefits of this particular type of account for businesses, and the guy takes out his checkbook and writes me a check for $100,000, right? And I kept talking. I kept explaining more like features he'll get and benefits with the account. And he literally reached across the desk and took the check right out of my hand and said, that I didn't realize that. Let me think about this some more. So only ask for one session and don't buy it back. Shut up once they've said yes, right? Exit the conversation as quick as possible.
Okay. I have a quick question in relationship. By the way, I didn't know that story. That's rough. Okay. So one thing that I'm curious about is why might people be so scared? Like, why is one partner so reluctant? And you don't have to go into a big thing about it. Just curious. And also, so yeah.
Well, look, the first thing is, there's a whole bunch of reasons, right? Someone might be reluctant to go to counseling. One of the first things is totally unknown. People have no real way of knowing what it is other than what they see in the movies.
Right.
Or they actually had counseling before and it was a horrible experience.
Yeah.
So another thing that I like to share, and I'm happy for anybody trying to convince their partner to go to couples counseling, I'm happy for any other therapist to steal this too, right? My proudest record, here's what I always tell people, right? The record I am most proud of, that I have 100% success, right? To date, nobody has ever died in my office, right? Nobody dies. Right. So the worst thing, let's say couples counseling, the first session is horrible experience and you're sweating bullets and you're like, oh my God, when will this hour end? The good news is you and your partner will get out alive. It'll be fine. You'll survive the experience. Right. So to that point, right? Like, people just are like, it's terrifying to do something new and to talk about something so intimate as your relationship with a stranger.
Right.
Right? Like how do you even imagine what that would be like?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Go on.
And, well, I just feel, I've used we need to go to therapy as a threat for you.
You have. That is true. You have threatened me with that.
I have, after particularly bad conflicts, and hey, I'm in it. I'm like, oh my gosh, we just disconnected so bad. I'm so upset. I hate how I talk to you. I hate how you talk to me. We are messed up. But what I share is, you know what, Figs? We need to go to couples therapy.
Right.
So, I think I'm curious about that. Like, is that obviously? I mean, it seems like timing might be an important.
Absolutely. Anything that you suggest in the middle of a fight is probably not going to land very well, right? Quite frankly, why don't you take me on a date? Probably going to sound like I'm being told I'm inadequate, not enough. Why don't you go to couples counseling? Probably going to sound like you're telling me I'm inadequate or not enough.
And that is the response that I got from you.
Yeah.
When I brought it up in conflict.
Absolutely. So so to your point, timing is really important. That in the middle of a moment where both of you are feeling threatened, counseling is probably going to be rejected straight out of the gate.
Right.
And again, by the way, another interesting sales thing, now that I've gone down this path, is the sale hasn't begun until the prospect has said no 3 times. So just the other thing is, just because someone said no one time, and especially if the first time was in a fight, they're definitely going to say no to couples counseling. If you ask them to go to couples counseling or demand they go to couples counseling,
right.
In the middle of a fight, they're going to say no. But that's only the beginning, right? You still, we haven't even begun to get into the depth of the discussion about going to couples counseling until they've said no 3 times, right? So you can be persistent, but be skillful. Only ask for 1 session. If you get them to yes, shut up, exit the room, change the topic. Oh, isn't it a beautiful day outside? Right? Do whatever you got to do just to like let the conversation end at yes. Right? And then, yeah, the timing, like, you know what? Yeah, I think we did have a fight yesterday. I can see you're still hurting. I'm still hurting. Maybe we should think about couples counseling. Right? You know, so come back to it like after the heat of battle.
Which brings up, I think, the next point.
Yeah.
You know, if I imagine if I'm like, look, Figs, even if it's in a de-escalated time where we're not fighting, but I said, look, I think we need to go to couples counseling because you've got some issues to work on or some anger management, which is more like me, but
no, you're right.
Yeah, we all get angry. So right. I mean, I think that what happens for me is I just imagine if I'm saying, hey, maybe we need to go to couples therapy. I need help with something.
Right. Exactly.
I think you might need some support in this, or we do, you know.
Absolutely. Well, so here's you know, 3 things you could pay attention to when you're in a fight or moment of disconnection with your partner. 2 of them are good. 1 of them is bad. Right? Mm-hmm. The 2 that are good is you're focusing on yourself and describing the ways you might need some support. The second one is the system. These are ways I think our relationship needs support. Us together. We, us, our relationship, not you. So the third one, the one that is just going to get you in trouble every time is, you know, I've been noticing some of your behavior and some of the things you have problems with. And I think we should go to couples counseling to sort you out. Right? Like, even if you're like, you're not even being explicit about that, but like really anybody would implicitly take like that's what you're saying. Like they're like, yeah, you think I'm the problem. I'm not going to couples counseling with you. You can get over yourself, right?
I'm laughing, but I do this. We all do this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easier to be stuck in the you need help versus, gosh, you know what? I can really fly off the handle when I feel like you're not caring or... And
us, we could do with some support.
Some support.
So this is the other thing about help. Like, you look, again, you just want to make sure you like don't touch really raw spots in the other person. Because if you say like, we need help, like, yeah, we might need help. But like, help is a tough word for, especially if someone's more reluctant. It's like, why? Because I'm helpless? Because I'm powerless? Because I'm not good enough, right? Like, you know, it can be very triggering. So again, let me just go over that again, because that's actually kind of important, right? 3 things you can pay attention to in a fight. 1 is yourself and your own process. That's good. Pay attention and share what's happening inside yourself, right? 2, you could pay attention to your system, the relationship system that you are 50% of. That is good. Starting to talk about, look what's happening with us. Look at our troubles in fights. We have a hard time. Wow, isn't this both of us that get stuck? We could sure do with some help. That's good, right? 3rd one, bad. And the 3rd one is where most people, me included, as you admitted, you too, right, Teale? That's where people usually start off. They're going, we're in a fight. And you need to get your shit together, right? Like, you know, there's just nothing good has ever come out of somebody pointing out what is wrong with the other person, right?
Absolutely.
So, okay. So what's the next thing?
The next thing that I think is important to address, right?
Yeah.
Is that finding someone that you think your partner might resonate with.
Absolutely. So yeah, like, so the, you know, relationship with the therapist is a really important factor to have the value you're seeking in going to couples counseling. So, look, if you know your partner is very soft and really gentle and like really loving and slow, and, you know, you'd probably be good to get a therapist that also kind of has a very soft, gentle way about them.
Right.
Yeah. And if you have your partner, let's say they're like a little like rough around the edges and they use their arm to like, you know, to wipe their nose.
And come to me.
Exactly. Then maybe it's me. Like, if they find it hard to get their shirt on the right way, it's not inside out, or to pull their fly up. But that's because I do. Obviously, I have trouble getting dressed. But you want to try and match the personalities for both of you, right? Because your therapist is going to be your relationship. Both of you together is going to be the client. But if you have one person that's, you think is going to have a harder time to feel safe in the room, then really think about what kind of personality, what kind of therapist would be a good fit.
Great. I think that's really good.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on to the next one. And in terms of false notions about therapy, I think people are scared of it because they think, oh my gosh, we're going to go in and the therapist is just going to be like, you know what? This relationship is not sustainable.
Totally.
And they're like, oh my God, inside.
I know. So look, this is this crazy thing. People have this notion about therapy in general, and of course, couples therapy, that hopefully it shouldn't be what therapy and couples therapy actually is. So one is, people often think the therapist is actually sits in judgment of the couple, either works out, is this relationship capable of making it or not, right? And provide some, judgment, some final say, and or they're actually determining which one of the couple has to get their shit together,
right?
And gives them advice. Well, you got to do this. You got to stop being Miss Blamey Pants.
Right, as the one person is the bad guy in the relationship, and that's terrifying for any of us.
And in reality, good couples therapy, a therapist will not do, or counselor, or whatever word you like, they're not going to do any of those things. They're not going to sit in judgment of you, right? They're not going to try and find which one of you is the bad guy and tell you these are the things you need to change, right? Because you're the problem in this relationship. What a good therapist is going to do is going to help you see the system that is both of you together, and be very empathic, very loving and caring, knowing that the only reason you would ever act in ways that are difficult in your relationship is because you must be hurting inside. So the number one intervention a good therapist is going to be using, regardless of their approach, is empathy and unconditional positive regard. For sure, at some point when you guys feel comfortable and safe, and you and your therapist are doing chest bumps at the end of session and high fives, and you're yeah, you got your own secret handshake. At some point they might challenge you, but not until that point where you feel really safe with each other, or you feel the relationship is really solid.
And it's a loving challenge.
Exactly.
It's a connectful, I see you, I'm here to get you and get your experience in this relationship. And hey, maybe you've been doing this to protect yourself.
Yeah, I know.
Right? Can I love you up? Can we get curious about it?
Totally.
See how it might be maladaptive in the relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So try and just be clear that couples therapists, when you're thinking about trying to convince or help your reluctant partner to come, that couples counseling does actually help both of you take responsibility for the relationship, not place the blame on either one of you. So that can be very helpful to kind of dispel any of those kind of notions that people would have about what actually happens in the room.
So good couples therapy is basically, again, going back to this is an us problem.
Exactly.
This is a problem of our system. So there's not this shaming. I think people get scared, and I certainly have this fear myself. I could be shamed. I could leave like that. I'm really messed up.
Absolutely. And that's I would just say, good couples counseling, rule number one, no shaming. No shaming. Nobody. If everybody gets out alive, in my office, again, amazing record that I have, right? The other thing is, nobody leaves being shamed by the process, right? That is the golden rule. No one's going to be shamed in the process. We're helping everybody have empathy and compassion and understanding for ourselves, for our partner, for us as a system, and for every human being on the planet eventually. But no shaming. By the way, just the last thing, I just, because, I'm watching the time here. I actually have a therapy session in like 6 minutes. We have to wrap up. But the last thing, that we talk about, like I'm a certified emotionally focused couples therapist. Sounds like a mouthful. And emotionally focused couples therapy is pretty much accepted these days as the gold standard of how to work with couples. And, the evidence is pretty clear. 86% of couples show significant improvements when they go through a series of 12 sessions. But don't try and sell 12 sessions, just one, right? And 73% of couples get better and stay better when we go back to them 2 years later and check in how they're doing,
Incredible.
right? So it works. But also I want to make a plug for Imago couples counseling. That's pretty good, right? The couples therapist, if you go see a Imago therapist, an EFT therapist, or a Gottman therapist, they're following a process and a procedure, a methodology that will hold you, the couple, right? So go see a therapist that really explicitly specializes in seeing couples. Don't go see your granny's best friend who has a general practice and will sure, I see everybody. I'll see a couple too, right? This is my opinion. Go see someone that specializes in seeing couples, right? Because here's the kind of sad, tragic thing that we say in the emotionally focused therapy community. No couples therapy is better than bad couples therapy.
Absolutely.
So whether you go online, you check review sites, you get recommendations, cross-reference, if you go on a review site and you see this person has great reviews, see if you can also is there some other way you can check whether this person is good, talk to them, get a sense of who they are. Really do spend a little bit of time and effort making sure this person really knows what they're doing. Right? So again, remember that. I'd rather you have no couples therapy than go to a therapist where you're going to end up shamed or either of you are going to feel blamed through the process, because it'll just make things worse.
Nobody's got time for that.
No one's got time for that. Exactly. We don't want you to end up like couples counseling actually making things worse. But if you get someone that really knows what they're doing, it is unbelievable how positive a difference it can make. Even if you're really in an escalated place of conflict, even just one session with a couples therapist that actually knows what they're doing can make things start to get better immediately. Just being held in the process. So just ask for one session. Don't buy it back. Remember, even if it's terrible, you'll be okay. It's really important, the relationship with the therapist. Find someone that actually knows what they're doing. And remember, therapy is not about shaming. It's not about finding out who's wrong. It's about realizing what the relationship system that both of you are in together so you can be on the same team and fight those relationship problems together, right? And timing. Remember when to ask. And even if someone says no, don't give up. Just come back a little bit later and be a bit more skillful. Sale hasn't even begun until the prospect, your reluctant partner, has said no at least 3 times. So I hope that helps, give you some kind of little tips on how you might be able to approach your partner if you want to try couples counseling. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything you want to add before we end, sweetie?
No, that was perfect.
Oh, thank you. Give us a kiss.